Oh, do I need to say it again?
No, it's up to you. I have it.
You have it? Okay. Meeting started at 6:03. Okay, if you will take the roll call.
I will. Chairman Evans.
Here.
Assistant Chair Youngling.
Here.
Member Hess.
Here.
Member Lewis.
Here.
Member Hayward.
Here.
Absent is Member Finley and Member Schott.
Oh, and I think, yeah,
Excuse me.
I'm also here.
I'm sorry.
No
Henry.
worries.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, as noted, Ms. Finley is unable to attend this evening. It is an approved absence. In her place will be alternate Zach Hayward, who will be serving as a regular member this evening. Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. I have two additions. Does anybody else have any additions before I add mine?
I have some adjustments also.
Okay.
I got more treasurer stuff.
Under new business, I would like to add Form 700, and our secretary will be sharing that information with us. Actually, that's the only one. The other one is comment. Oh, yeah, and the other one is the removal of item 8-1. The Carl Ritterman and Associates CDP 2021-0031. We did approve that at the last meeting, but the minutes were late getting to our secretary, so it was added on the agenda. But we did address that already. Are there any other additions, corrections? Okay.
Some additions to correspondence. Relatively recently, Kevin distributed the draft minutes for the December 5th meeting on the 3rd of February. We also have had a couple of pieces of email correspondence today on the same topic. Councilmember Finley informed us that he will not be able to attend, and Councilmember Henry responded. So these were distributed to all members. Also, I note item 8.3 under agency referrals, that was assigned to Chair Evans at the last meeting. I wasn't aware of that, so I'll make that change.
I wonder if we should add this correspondence as well.
I believe I included it. Department of the Navy is third bullet under item 5.
Thank you, my apologies.
No worries. They're getting back to me for getting to check your name. Sorry. And that's it.
Okay. Any other recommended changes, deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
So moved.
Motion by Lewis,
Second.
second by Mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item of business is the approval of the December 5th, 2024 minutes. All of you should have received them, hopefully. I think they were distributed. If not, I have a copy tonight. If there aren't any questions or additions or deletions in it, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Youngling, second by Mr. Hayward. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to note my abstention.
One abstention. You know, I just read that abstentions are no longer valid.
You want to give me a different option?
No,
All right, be that.
it was just an FYI.
What?
That abstentions are no longer valid. You have to either vote yes or no, but they do not. That was something that the county of Mendocino just adopted.
For their,
Yeah, you either have to vote yes, yay or nay, but you can't abstain.
that's for their own meetings, or that applies to the max as well?
I think that's their meetings, but because we take their lead, it's not something we have to adopt, but I was just bringing it to everybody's attention tonight. That was a direction by the new chair, Supervisor Hashek, that
Okay.
yeah.
Well, just for the record, I'll note that I had my extension based on the fact I wasn't there, so I have nothing
Yeah.
to add.
No, you're fine.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Don, are Russell Ford or John Burks in the audience? If so,
Russ Ford is there, yeah.
okay. We have a presentation this evening by the Mendocino County Planning and Building Services. The presentation is on the determination of the proposed Gualala Census designated place boundary. And to give a little history on that, in 2023, when the Gualala Community Center burned down and they were looking for grants, we were notified, the people involved with the Gualala Community Center, that Gualala is a census block community, meaning that it is tied in with everyone else up and down the coast except for Point Arena and Anchor Bay. So we asked the Board of Supervisors and got the support of Supervisor Williams to go ahead and apply, and it has to be by the governing agency. So the county is the governing agency for Gualala, to look at what they have to do as far as filing any information with the United States Census Bureau to get Gualala changed from a census block to a census designated place. And what that will do for us, that will give us sound geographic information, economic information that we will be able to use, and the county will be able to use in determining future grants for our community. So it's a great step. Henry?
Sorry, we missed an item in the agenda, which was the annual organization.
The what?
Annual organization?
Oh,
You asked for that to be advanced up,
we did.
but I suggest.
Okay, Mr. Ford, yes.
In the interest of the attendees.
Yeah, if we could, why don't we go ahead and then we'll do the reorganization right after that, if that's okay with the council?
Yeah, do we want to do a quick vote to amend the agenda, or?
No, we'll just kind of,
I'll note it as such. I think that's our intent. Is
Yeah.
that fair enough for everybody?
Okay.
thank you for that.
No problem.
I missed that. Okay, so, Mr. Ford,
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
yes. Thank
All
you
right.
for your attendance.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I think you did a great job summarizing where we were at. The only note that I had is that, just to back up a little bit, the census has essentially 3 different levels of partitions, I guess. So a census tract is the largest one. And so here's a map of the census tract, which covers the Gualala area, covers all the way up to Manchester and almost up to Elk. So pretty huge. Within the census tract, they also have what they call block groups. And then the smallest standard unit is census blocks. So I have another map here if I can get to in a minute, but within anything that is an unincorporated part of a county, the community has the ability to adopt what's called a census designated place. And that's a pretty loosely defined term. It's really up to the community on how they want to define it, what they want to include. There's just a couple of simple guidelines I found on the Federal Register page this afternoon. And they just noted that there's no minimum population threshold for CDPs, but if you have something with less than 10 housing units, they're going to want to verify that it actually exists, which I don't think will be a problem here. And then they suggest that CDP boundaries should follow visible features. So to that end, I think I had sent along a map of the existing GMAC boundary, which we were thinking could be a good jumping off point for this. The GMAC boundary mostly follows assessor's parcel lines, which could be an option if that's the way that you wanted to go. Given that the southern boundary and the western boundary are significant geographic features already with the river and the ocean, I think we're halfway there. So what I was going to suggest just for some discussion tonight is that if we wanted to consider using Iverson Road at the north end. Sorry, my map's been a little squirrely here. Iverson Road at the north end over to either Old Stage Road or down to what I think is a north fork of the Gualala River. And that's going to cover 95+% of the development in the Gualala area. And so back on this GMAC map, you can see all these little dots. These are all address points. So most of those are residential units. You have some commercial units that are down here in the community, but most of them are residential. If we use Old Stage Road, we're going to be missing a handful of these units that are on the east side of the road. But if we swing it out over to the river, we're going to encapsulate all those. And again, I've never worked on incorporating a census designated place, so I don't know if that's going to make a big difference or not. I'm just offering it up as kind of a factor for discussion. So I'm just here tonight to kind of take some notes and see which way you guys want to go. And I'm happy to answer any questions or chip in if necessary, but I'll turn it back to the council for some discussion.
Okay, well, does any of the council members have any questions for staff right now? If not, we'll see if there are any public comments, and then we'll bring it back to the council for discussion. You have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, for the record, could you please repeat your names?
Yes, I'm sorry. My name is Russ Ford, Senior Planner with Mendocino County Planning and Building Services.
Okay. Thank you, Russ. Quick question for you. So as I understand, described as that Gualala and this area shown in the map is presently inside of a census tract that goes all the way up the coast to Elk and Manchester. Is that correct?
So what we're doing is basically trying to define a smaller area that the census could use for statistical purposes that would help just the Gualala area in some of these grants that's, within this larger tract and block group area.
Okay. And is it possible for you to show us on this map or something like it where the current block and block group boundaries are that relate to Gualala?
Yeah, I couldn't find a map of the block groups just offhand, but these are the blocks that are within the area. So you can see that there's a lot of variety in how they define the blocks. For the most part, they kind of follow geographic boundaries, streams and things. But you have some really large ones that are out here to the east where there's little population. And then along here on the coast, we have all kinds of a little mishmash of these blocks. I honestly have no idea how those get formed, but another option would be to just kind of select all the blocks that are within the area that we wanted, merge them all together and call that the CDP boundary.
That's where I'm headed. I think part of what many of us have encountered in dealing with U.S. Census Bureau and other government agencies, simpler tends to be better, particularly if we can work with something that's already been defined. Is there a way for you to show us what that amalgam of blocks might look like for a group that makes more sense for the Gualala area? Something that comes close to the boundaries that you've assembled in draft.
Unfortunately, not with the hardware that I have available tonight. I'm just on a laptop and I don't have my GIS software, but essentially we'd just be selecting all of these shapes that fit the boundary, the approximate boundary of what you wanted to call the Gualala CDP and merging them into one large group. So what I would like to do is take some of these notes from the meeting tonight, go back and make some updated draft maps and send them your way. And then I don't know if you'd have to bring that back to another meeting or if you could just weigh in individually, but start with that and we could establish some drafts that way.
Okay, and then one more question and I'll yield. Is there a way for you to show us the relationship between either this assembly of block groups that might make sense for Gualala or the draft boundary that you guys have prepared as a kind of a straw man for tonight? and the zip code 95445.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think I have the zip codes because zip codes are kind of just a convenient way for the post office to organize things, and I haven't found that they really, in a lot of cases, correspond to reality, I guess, for the lack of a better term. But we could certainly, if that's something that you're interested in analyzing, we could prepare a draft map that has all of those things overlaid together, and you could kind of pick which one best fit your vision.
Well, just for me, yes, please for me, but I'll leave it to my colleagues to weigh in on their preferences as well. Thank you for taking my questions.
Henry?
Yeah, I'll just note on that, looks like probably about 2/3 of 95445 is east of the North Fork of the Gualala River. That does not feel like Gualala to me personally, for what that's worth. It also has a couple of discontinuous sections, like north of Gualala. And then, sorry, just to clarify, when you were saying it would go to Iverson Road, you were talking about it would go north to Iverson Road where it runs into Highway 1, right? Because Iverson takes a somewhat complicated path.
Correct. Yeah, I was suggesting where Iverson meets Highway 1 here, and it runs east and then south as it comes along and meets Old Stage, and that would basically comprise the northern border if we did want to stick with a geographic feature.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple if no one else does.
I just have a comment.
Don?
Yeah, I just want to state that I am in favor of using the North Fork of the Gualala River and the Little North Fork as the eastern boundary, so that those people who are on the eastern side of Old Sage Road are included.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Russ, I have a couple questions as well. There's on your map, it probably shows, and you don't need to answer it this evening, but I would like you to take a look at what we might need to do to incorporate the housing. I'm going to call it a division for lack of a better term. On the north side of Iverson, there's a tract of homes north of there. And I know that they're not within the South Coast Fire Protection District or the Gualala sphere of influence, the Gualala MAC sphere of influence. But I would like to see what we might be able to do to incorporate that in the census tract development.
Iverson Lane.
Yeah. But I also agree, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. So I think using the geographical boundaries that have been established by South Coast Fire Protection District and Gualala MAC are probably a good starting point with, I think Councilmember Hess's recommendations should give you a good starting place on where we would like the census tract. If there are not any, Dan, do you have a? Okay, if there aren't any other questions from council, is there anybody in the audience that has a question for staff at this point? None? Okay, I'll bring it back to council. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to see this done as quickly as we can. I know that, Russ and his team are busy with other things. I'd rather we can dispatch this rapidly. Russ, when do you think you could share the mapping product that you talked about with GMAC members?
I expect I'd be able to get a draft back to you maybe the middle of next week, only because I'm out of the office this week.
Okay.
So that would be in time definitely for our March meeting.
Yeah, should be plenty of time for that.
And I would also ask if you could, what will happen to, because Anchor Bay right now is a census tract designated place.
Okay.
What will happen with Anchor Bay's census tract designation if they're basically right in the middle of this, the rest of the proposed census designated place, would they still remain independent or would they be incorporated with the overall Gualala census designated place?
So if Anchor Bay has already been designated as its own census designated place, it would have to remain separate under the census regulations. If
Okay,
it's just right now existing as part of a tract or a block, it could be incorporated into the overall Gualala CDPA if that was what you guys desired.
How far does Anchor Bay go? Does it go all the way up to Sunset and residential?
yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it's only what? Well, I know their sign says a population of 146. No. Yeah,
The original Anchor Bay was.
oh,
The road, Fish Rock Road is just come right in.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Russ, if you could give us, yeah, an updated report that we can take a look at. We definitely want to be able to share it with the public again, so we would do that at our March meeting.
Yep, sir.
Would the March item be an action item? We render comments at that point?
Depends on where he's prepared. So it would be, Wednesday, March 5th.
Okay.
And you can contact either, Mr. Spock or myself, on any updates, and we can kind of keep you apprised of what's going on. And, if you're ready to launch the project, then we would be happy to add it to our March agenda.
Yeah, I'll pass those along as soon as I have them. Like I said, hopefully middle of next week, and then just let me know where that fits on your calendar and how you want to proceed.
All right. Any other questions from anybody? No? Thank you, Russ, for your presentation. We appreciate it and all your hard work on this project.
Sure thing. Happy to help. So I will be in touch with you guys, and I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Okay, getting back on track. See, having that month off just did not work. Okay, item number 3 is our GMAC annual organization. Per our bylaws, at the first meeting of the council in the calendar year, the council members shall organize by electing from their number a chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. So the nominations are open for the chair, and then we will go down the order from there. So we'll entertain any motion for anybody for chair.
I nominate Mr. Evans.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? I'm hearing crickets.
I think it's TV.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I won't say. Thank you for that vote of confidence. Now on to vice chair. Do we have a nomination for our vice chair?
I'll nominate Robert.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody, any other nominations?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the motion and second?
The motion was to nominate Robert Youngling as the vice chair.
Who did the move?
Motion was by Mayor, second was by Hess,
Thank you.
supported by Hayward. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Secretary position, do we have any nominations for secretary?
I nominate Dave Spock as secretary.
We have a motion by Zach. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Call for question. Would anybody else like to do this?
Oh, that's true. Would anybody else like to do the
I'm not.
Sorry, it was a railroad.
Yes, it was.
Okay, is there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the table. You have that?
Me by Hayward, who's second?
Lewis.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Sorry, missed the decline on that.
That's all right.
I'm just so excited that.
I'm not.
We feel like you're doing a great job, thank you for your service.
And the last position to fill is the treasurer. Are there any nominations for the treasurer position?
I nominate Dan.
Second.
Are there, I'm gonna do it right. Are there any other nominations
sorry.
for the dubious job of serving as treasurer for this august body? Hearing none, we have a motion by member Hess. We have a second by member Mayor. I'll ask you, Dan, do you want the job?
Yeah.
I didn't ask
No,
anybody
you
else.
didn't.
I was afraid of the answer.
Yes.
Not least as enthusiastic as your back over there.
No.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Congratulations to all the new officers.
And also thank you to all of the officers.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your service.
And thanks to Don for all his service too. He's not an officer, but
There
he
should be an
he does a
officer
lot
and
of work.
IT person.
Let's amend the bylaw. That's a good time.
Okay, getting back on track. Sorry. We are at the public comments.
Well, sorry, do we want to make any changes to committees?
That's good.
We could, but can we do that?
We can, yeah.
Because we have a lengthy calendar. We have people that are.
I just wanted to bring it up since we were at the annual, but we can do that off
This
cycle as
would be the
well.
time to do it, but I think everyone concurs. We'll deal with the committees
Hey,
later in the
Mark,
agenda. No, let's do it when we tackle the committee stuff.
Yeah, when we get to the committee reports, we can go ahead and
Item 11.
address it at that time.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We could do a revote. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items, a maximum of 3 minutes is reserved for members of the public to address the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council on items not listed on the agenda. And the total time for public input on a particular issue is limited to 20 minutes. The council is prohibited from discussing or acting on matters not on the agenda, but may briefly respond or ask a question for clarification. Is there anybody from the audience who would like to address the council? None. Okay, public comments are closed. We move on to the next item. It's my pleasure to introduce our resident deputy, Chris McNally, who's going to give us an update, and is Lieutenant White still on?
I'm still here.
Oh, good,
So, yeah.
okay.
Good evening. You see me with a +1 tonight. This is my wife Teresa. I brought her dinner tonight.
Welcome.
Well, as soon as we're done here, we're probably gonna go to Marvis and have some dinner.
Henry, can you move the microphone over?
Oh, yeah. I tend to do this. I tend to wander around the room. I thought I'd start out with reminding you gentlemen that I'm a resident deputy. I live in your community. When I'm on duty, I'm working. My area goes from basically the city of Mendocino or Mendocino City to the river. When I'm not working, the sheriff's office puts somebody in this location as much as they can to cover the shortcomings when I'm not here. So I thought I'd give you guys just a little bit of an idea of what goes on. That total area last month, we had 279 calls. So it was fairly busy month up and down the coast, at least the south part, right? But we're going to talk about Gualala. Gualala had 40 calls for service. There were 20 extra patrols. And what those are is there's 20 different instances where myself or another deputy actually got on the radio and advised dispatch that I've specifically focusing on one area for, you know, a moment in time or a specific time amount to cover that area and give it some extra attention from us. So there was actually 20 of those. Everything from the airport to Bower Park to Gualala as a whole to a specific area. If somebody called in and said, hey, I'm on vacation, can you take a look while we're gone? And sometimes, you know, they'll tell us, hey, these cars are supposed to be here, or the maintenance guy's here this day and that day, and that sort of. So we try and keep an eye on stuff, things the best we can. Other than that, there was one alarm call, one non-specific animal call, one civil matter, one citizen assist. Citizens assist can be anything from helping somebody with a broken down car to somebody calling with a question about a specific issue. Okay. We had one mental health call, one call about fireworks, a threats call, an agency assist where I believe it was with the fire department. We helped them with a specific situation. They needed somebody else there. One welfare check, 2 traffic stops, one reported repossession. So they would report to us that they're repossessing the vehicle, so we don't think they're stealing the car. One 911 hang up, one burglary, one coroner's report, one theft, one juvenile problem, and one non-specific investigation where a deputy did some follow-up and just called in. He was on an investigation. So the things that have gone down, there was only one burglary reported and one theft reported. So we'll knock that at least some of that stuff is coming down. Some of that's coming down probably because of our presence. You know, and we try as much as we can to be down here. What I ask you guys, as always, to share with the community is call us. You're not bothering us. If you see something, call us and we can address it, right? I'm rolling around in an advertisement for the county sheriff's office. It says right on the side, you know. So when they see me, they tend to be good. As soon as I go through, they go back to their business. So if you guys see something that's necessary to report, that'd be great to report to us.
I have a question about the calling.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about 911.
Just the sheriff's office business line, unless it's an emergency. You're welcome to call 911 if it's an emergency, obviously, but just the business line.
The reason I say that is that I was just told this week that 911 is supposed to be local. Cell phone, you know, much larger. Spectrum. So therefore the response is more delayed. Is there any way to compensate for that?
Right. How that works is the sheriff is the PSAP, so he's responsible for that public safety stuff. Originally, CHP had their fingers in the cell phone 911s, and I know that they're transitioning more back toward the counties with the cell phone stuff, but that's a process to get all the equipment and all the technology talking together, right? So currently, you know, I've had some cell phone 911s go straight through to the county. I've had some that go to CHP, and then it's not so much that it's a huge delay, it's more of a game of telephone. So when let's say you dial 911 for a medical. If you dial 911 for a medical and use a landline, it's gonna go to the sheriff's office. The sheriff decides it's the medical, then it goes to the fire dispatch, right? And then it goes out from there. So what happens if it's a cell phone, it may go to CHP, and then it may decide to go to a medical directly from there, or go to the sheriff's office to meet and deal with that. So it's usually pretty quick, really is, but it's just a game of telephone, right? It's like me telling Henry something and Henry telling Dan something and Dan telling, you know, giving Kevin an email and it comes out to me after.
So, well, the reason I bring it up is because now the rates on landlines are getting 5, 6, 7.
Right. I don't have a landline. I only have a cell phone myself.
So I about that in my office. So,
Right.
So in a family situation where you've got, you know, medical emergency and you deciding whether or not to go out the landline, for that reason, it's getting less and less viable.
Right.
And so then the response needs to be, okay, will the system adjust itself so that the 911 will primarily be coming in on cell phones and therefore be directed in a more efficient manner?
Well, how it works is when you dial 911, your GPS location comes up off of the cell phone. Now, that also depends on your clear cell towers and so forth. So we get everything from 3 meters to 3 miles sometimes. So, which is not fun for me because they might be, okay, somebody called 911 and it's a 3 mile radius somewhere out here. So it means I get to go hike. You know, the best thing you can do when you dial 911 is be very clear on where you're at. Yeah, mile markers, your address, and just stay on the phone until you know they release you, because that always more information is needed. Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can interject, I think yesterday's incident was a great example of how GPS can be inaccurate. When the fellow that got swept away in the river down on the south coast yesterday, when it first came out at about 7 o'clock in the morning, it was actually saying it was right here in Fort Bragg off of Highway 20 and 1, and not even close to where it was actually happening.
Correct, and then there was 2 locations down here, actually 3. First, it was off of Bill Owings and Highway 1, and then it was off of by the casino on that side of the river there, and then it turned out being on the other side. So he decided that the river was closed, so he was gonna use his GPS and go a route around it, drove right off into the river and had a ride. So it can be inaccurate, so it's really important to know where you're at and tell us where you're at so that I can find you.
Yeah, and great work, by the way, by everyone involved to
Yeah.
pull him out without.
You guys are very, very lucky. You've got a very active fire department here. You have a great fire department here. And Point Arena and Gualala and the Park Service and even the Coast Guard got involved and worked really well together.
I'll second that too. It's nice too. Sometimes you don't get that in bigger areas where departments kind of mesh as well as they do as like on the coast. Everybody gets along great, and it's a huge team effort. So I will second what Deputy McDonald said.
All right. Lieutenant, do you have anything else to share?
I do not. I was just going to say, hopefully you've seen Deputy McNally down there. A lot more staffing starting to get a little bit better. So have him currently on a shift where he can make the most impact down there and be visible and help deter things. So, but like he said, please, when we're out and about and they see us in the cars, they're going to behave mostly for the most part. So if you see something, a lot of people say, "Oh, I hate to bother you. I hate to call." Don't ever feel that way. Please call us. That's what we're.
Well, thank you for all that you do, and please stay safe, and I'd like to say stay dry.
Yeah.
And don't drive in flooded areas.
Yeah. Just stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
A funny story, I pulled up and the fire chief from Gualala saw me pull up and he's like, "Hey, Chris, make a run at it. I think you can make it."
I don't know if Chris told you, but Sheriff Kendall apologized for not being able to be here tonight. He had to attend another meeting in Kovala.
He did share that, so thank you for that.
Okay.
Right. I just told him I didn't bring my water wings and I wasn't prepared to swim in.
Exactly.
And been running through a cow food.
I'm sure you appreciated his dare though.
Oh, yeah.
All good
It's
sport.
all part of the fun.
All right.
So if you guys don't have anything else, I'll take my.
We're good. How about have an enjoyable dinner?
That's the plan. You guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You have a good night.
I just wanted to note that I did have some communication with Rose and Sheriff Kendall's staff. She mentioned that our temporary shift to Wednesday evenings would conflict with the standing meeting commitment that he has. Unfortunately, for the period of time that we are meeting Wednesday nights, Sheriff Kendall will not be able to join us. We look forward, of course, to interacting with his staff.
Well, fortunately, we'll be back on our regular schedule in July. This is only a temporary hiccup, so we're all good. Okay. Moving on to item 8.2. And this is going to be an easy one for me. It's Coastal Development Permit 2022-0042. Michael Baron White. And my report is short because Michael's in the audience, and Michael, tell us about the Coastal Development Permit.
Well, this is a deja vu, and you guys had already approved this. It's ironic because of circumstances that were unknown to the client, but it was not to be approved on the first go round by Coastal was that the proposed lap pool, I think, surgery, so she rehabs some water. So it doesn't matter as far as the way the laws work. So you use a consultant, which I use WRA, and all. So there's a ditch on the entry side that water. So. Foot setback from the bluff. The building that exists with its deck already had that. So we made sure that we were not any closer than those. Some native grasses that were on the bluff. Decks there, because of the species of a bunch of that. The building, the deck, closer to the grasses than our proposed project. So WRA felt like it was not a reasonable request. Decided other examples, exceptions to this over the decades. But staff person, whoever it is I think a relatively new person, didn't back off. So it was Mexican standoff. So I looked at the plan, reconfigured the pool in such a way that it was now 50 feet all the way through the existing deck to the post and retained the 50 feet. Now, she's now submitted it back through for approvals, and so you guys can.
Okay.
In the meantime, they have to pay another $600 for the review process. And I'm just here to make sure that we don't want to blind. Questions was, well, it's a pool, so what happens to water? Well, it's a contained system. It doesn't drain. This is the sewer and water district. So we don't have chemical dumping into the sewer system. And so, and it's the treated water is like a hot. So here we are, basically, anytime that there's a change in water, it's that by evaporation. It's 4 feet deep. It's, I think, about 20 by 40. So, then the other part of the project is converting an existing garage to an exercise. So she doesn't seem to have any issues at this point. So far, it's like this.
Okay. I'll bring it back to the council. I know that I was the council member assigned to this initially and made the presentation to council, and the council approved it as submitted. I think Mr. White explained the concerns that were developed as in regarding to the ESHA, and it sounds like they've been mitigated to the satisfaction of both staff and the Coastal Commission.
I don't know if Coastal's seen it yet, have they?
That I'm not sure. I need.
I didn't know if after you do this. Cause I'm not sure if she's finished with staff.
Oh, okay, then, let me retract that, coastal. We don't know about coastal commission's review of it yet, but, anyway, I know that we've had it and it sounds like planning staff has reviewed it and they're going ahead with their staff report, and then it'll probably be going to the planning commission again.
Yeah, it'll come out to the public here.
Yeah.
And also another letter which we find everywhere.
Okay. Okay. I'll bring it back to the council. Do you have any questions for Mr. White? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Oh, Dan?
Let me understand, your homeowner moved the Montclair to the site? It was on the site out on the bluff. What you're doing? Well, it was further away. Yeah. And they wanted they thought, well, let's just do some native planting on the side, and this grass ends up, thriving, and at certain times of the year has a robust look to it. Yeah. So let's just move some over in here and it'll just look like it's flowing. Not knowing that it was, in protected species and that therefore the setback was made closer. Thank you. That's what I understood. Because the building never would have been there if that grass had been there originally. It would have had to turn 50 feet back.
Replant it back out on the bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
That might.
We could have said, just move the grass back where it was. Then they'd say, so, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first one. Yeah, that's a good one. It's the first one we do.
Any other questions for Mr. White? Robert?
Motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Youngling. Do we have a second?
I didn't make it.
Oh, I thought you raised, okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'll be happy to make a motion that we give our advisory approval of the re-referral of coastal development permit 2021-0031. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
0442. The second one.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Youngling, second by Mr. Hayward. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried, and I'll go ahead and write the letter for the staff. All right. Item 8.3, CDP-M. It's a modification to CDP 2024-0010. Mr. Berenson, how's
Can you guys-
Colorado?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Very good. It's very, very nice to meet all you guys. And I really appreciate your time tonight. So, this is a CDP. And Kevin, let me know if you need me to explain any of it, but it's basically it's actually a modified CDP, but it was originally, I submitted as a regular CDP, but they wanted me to make it a modified one on the original CDP that was done a couple years ago that you guys approved. And this is for a single family home, 2-bedroom, 2-bath that my wife and I hope to build here in the next couple years and move out there and live our dream and join the community. So thank you very much for looking at this.
I'll just add to that, his property is located on Havens Neck Drive, so it's right there, nestled in between two other developed homes. He has a unimproved lot. When we first looked at it, it was just to approve the location of the wells. And the county was very nice to, rather than have him do a whole new building permit, CDP, and go through the whole process again, they said all you have to do is modify your existing one to add your structure. And so that's what he's bringing forward tonight, is he's showing us the plans regarding the structure. Don, do you have
Do you guys want me to share my
Much for the
screen? I've
CDP?
got it on my screen if you guys want me to
Oh,
share it.
okay, yeah, if you wanna do a share that way, that'd be great.
Yeah,
So
let's
everybody
see
can kind of
if
see
this
what
will,
you're putting together.
let's see. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes,
Okay, very cool. So this is just a real summary of the entire CDP it's actually probably about 300 pages. It's got the biological survey, the archaeological, the geotech, and a million other things. But this is a satellite view of this is the site plan. And I overlaid it onto a satellite view so you can see where it sits in this Havens Neck subdivision. So this is not visible from the highway. It's in this neighborhood that was established, I think right around 1960. And this house to the south was built in around 1967. And the original owner, actually the son of the original owner, still lives there. And the house to the north was built maybe about 15 years ago. And they live in there part-time. I think they live down in the Bay Area. But you can kind of see, there's so many things with the CDP to go over, but the placement of the house, which you can see overlaid here, was basically established by the geotech report, which has to be 35 feet away from the beginning, what they call the beginning of the bluff edge. The actual bluff is quite a ways away, but you can see the bluff edge here. If you can see my cursor, it juts in here a little bit and then goes back down. The geotech survey said it's got to be at least 35 feet away from that, which I am. The ESHA, the biological survey, obviously was a very important survey. I'm well over 50 feet away from any ESHAs, and I've actually got this is in the whole packet, but this is the map. I think their whole report was probably about 150 pages, but it all boiled down to this. This is the placement of the house. You can see it's about 96 feet away from the nearest ESHA towards the bluff, and the closest ESHA towards the dirt road is 76 feet. And this is mostly, there's a culvert here, and so they designated it as wetlands, but it's mostly, this whole lot's just got a lot of dead bishop pine trees. There's no alive bishop pine trees left. There's really no alive trees at all, to be honest with you. And Kevin, you've seen the parcel yourself. And so that had a lot to do with the placement of the house. And then the last was the septic design with Carl Ritteman and Associates. That was the last piece of the puzzle. And that's what kind of pushed the house a little bit to the south. And that's where we end up with this location. It's kind of the only location it could go, if you will. You can see this was their designed locations of the septic drain field and the reserve field. You can kind of see the outline of where a dirt driveway would go. And if you see this little square here, which I can go back to down here, this is where the actual septic tank would be. This is the drain field area. The two wells that were put in on the original CDP are located up here, if you can see that okay. And so that's the site plan. And then if you look, I'm sure you're curious what this is just kind of some information on the house. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, smaller home, about 1,738 square feet, with a garage and then a kind of a semi-covered pergola style back deck in the back. So the total footprint is just under 2,400 square feet. And so I don't know how much detail you guys want on this, but I've got some elevation views if you'd like to see. Front elevation view, rear elevation view, and then the left and right side.
all right. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Any questions from the council?
You went and saw the property?
Yeah.
Are you gonna give your thoughts after this, or?
The property is exactly as he described it. I think Mrs. Berenson took well advantage of trying to maintain the views, but also following the issues that he has to follow to make sure that it goes through the planning commission and also through coastal commission. I would suspect he's probably not going to move any of the plant vegetation off the slope and move it closer to his house. But no, it's a really nice project. The home itself fits within the other homes in that area. It's not going to stand out. It's well within the footprint of the other homes on that area. And I think it's going to be a nice improvement to an undeveloped piece of property on Havens Neck. So yeah, I think it's a nice location, and like I said, I've met Jim out there, and yeah, we've walked the site, and yeah, I would support the project. Don?
Yeah, I just have a question, if you could briefly, Jim, discuss the energy configuration of this house in terms of, what efficiencies are going to be built in other than the sort of typical, Title 24 requirements. It looks like, from this, one of the views you have of the proposed project, that there are solar panels, or it looked like solar panels on the ground.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So I'm wondering whether, okay, with those solar panels, are you going to incorporate a battery storage?
I have not decided that yet.
System.
Yeah. That's a good question. I haven't decided that yet. I really want to get the coastal development permit approved. This will obviously meet all of the California energy requirements, as well as the fire sprinkler side, insulation, the solar panel. Other than that, I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest with you. But it will definitely meet all of the California state requirements.
Okay.
And will definitely be much better than all the other houses in that neighborhood. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, it just seems like to me, you may need more solar panels than what you're showing there.
Yeah, I looked it up based on the number of bedrooms and square footage. If I do need more, I kind of think the county would tell me, but I did use their calculation based on the kilowatt hours of solar panels. And I'll be honest with you, like, I didn't go overboard with the solar panels. If I needed to add more, I would add them to this roof here, if you can see my screen okay. This would be kind of the southish side of the house. And this is going to be a tile roof. From a fire standpoint, it's very important to me. I didn't want to have like wood shingles like the neighbor's house, or more of the like an asphalt type shingle or anything like that. So it's going to be a tile roof. And to be honest with you, solar panels on a tile roof, I don't want to go overboard with the solar panels. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it definitely will meet the California requirements. Up and above that, I can't say if I'm going to surpass that or not. I'm not really planning to go overboard on that, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, well, I was just curious,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
and I know you don't have to decide everything yet.
Yeah, and that's just it. But it definitely, energy standpoint, the windows, the doors, the insulation in the walls.
That goes without saying. I don't think you have a choice on that.
You don't. Actually, I live in Florida right now. My dream has always been to live out in California. I used to live in Seattle. My wife was born and raised in Seattle, and her dad's from California. And so, Florida, it's a lot different. But the roof tiles on this house are really important to me. And so I really only want to limit myself to what's required on the solar panels. If an agency requires me to do more, then I definitely will. But to put these over the clay tile roof, I'm trying to balance that too, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
If I can make a comment on that.
Yeah,
I think, I just like to personally recommend, that if you can afford to, it would be super beneficial if you could get a battery, only because, you know, you're gonna get lots of cloud cover there, and you're also gonna experience lots of power outages in this area. So, you know, I would say that more important than how many solar panels you have, you'll have the advantage of the utility power charging your battery regardless as to how much sun you get, which will just keep your battery charged more. It charges during the, you know, the cheap hours of the utility power. So battery, more and more electricians are saying, is even more important than having solar panels by themselves. So
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
sustainability out here and your
Yeah.
enjoyment, you know.
Yeah, and we've looked at the Tesla battery system, and you know, it's amazing just in the last few years, the improvement on the technology, and I can only imagine what the next 3 to 4 years would be. Without a doubt, that's something we're looking at. I love the idea of this property. We've got the wells. It's kind of funny because the North Gualala water company has water in that neighborhood. And as you guys know, there's the water moratorium, which drives me a little crazy. I've talked to the state about that many times. They're probably tired of hearing from me about it. But the previous owner of this parcel, I bought this parcel about 3 years ago, owned it. Her father bought it in the 1960s, and they just decided never to build on it. But they were the original owners, and they actually paid to have the help pay to when they put that water system into that neighborhood in the 1980s. I think it was 1987. I even have the original letter about it. And they paid for that water system to be there, but yet this property can't hook up to it. So, but getting back to what I was going to say, I love the idea that this with the wells, the septic system, I love the idea of this house being totally independent of any other utilities, if you will. So electricity definitely plays into that. And so it's definitely been a balancing. That's why I was struggling with the previous question about the solar panels, because that tile roof will look really good. It's going to be a clay tile roof. And so it's the balance of the solar panels. But to your point about the battery, how that can be even more important than the panels themselves, that is definitely something we'll be looking at. So, and planning to do.
good point. Robert?
I was just curious, Mr. Berenson, you have the 2 wells. Why was that? Did you?
You know, I put in for 2,
Oh, okay.
just to play it safe. One well is a little bit better than the other, but what was approved by the county is we're going to do a dual well system anyway. They're about 25 feet apart, and so we're just going to use both of them at the same time. And so we had Carl Ritteman out there a little over a year ago during the dry season to do that. I think it's a 17-hour well test, right? That's part of the process of this getting a coastal development permit, which was very nerve-wracking in itself because, you know, on the bluff, significant water is tough to come by. And it did pass that test. And so, but we are planning to use both wells together as a dual well system.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other questions from council? If not, we'll see if there's any public comment, because we have public. Any members of the public? Michael?
It's hard to hear this comment. I don't know if the microphone's further away.
Yeah, my name's Michael Baron-Wyke. I'm a local architect in the area, and I've done.
Yeah, you and I spoke about 2 or 3 years ago. Actually, it was over 3 years ago.
Okay.
I was looking at the parcel at 36,420. I don't know if you remember that, but we spoke about it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it's nice to talk to you again.
Yeah.
And in your approach, I'm just doing my first. I've done a couple of zero energy homes over the last few years, and now with the way the code is switching, I just am building an all-electric house on the Sea Ranch. And some of the things that are evolving for you especially will be, you're going to need more panels than you have there if in fact you want to become self-sustaining. And also, you have to address whether the panels will be providing just for the electric use of the house or for also the heating of the house. So then you start bringing in the heat pumps and other equipment that brings you into a 300 amp service for your home. And some of the ways to offset that I've done before this new code requirement is passive solar. So whatever thermal mass you can make out of that house to store the energy, the orientation of the windows to the sun is going to benefit you immensely.
Yeah, you know, I would love to build this house out of solid concrete. In Florida, that's
no,
how.
you don't. No, you don't need to go that far. You can just do
Yeah.
the floor. You can do the floor. You can over insulate. And anyway, I'm happy
Yeah.
to talk to you more in the future.
Yeah,
But
I would love to.
But the other question I had for you, I'm doing a project up at Little River, and we have to get a well permit before we can, develop the property. So it sounds like you had gotten a well permit for more than one location as a potential site for water. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a permit for 2 wells. That's correct.
Okay, so that's what we'll probably do, is because, with water witching and actually the new technology for geological sounding, deep into the earth that a couple of companies are doing, we're kind of guessing as to where the water's going to be.
Oh yeah. There's the whole the seismic.
Yeah. Yes.
What's the term? I actually I hired a guy to do that at that other lot that I had originally called you because I saw your sign at another house that was being built, and so that's when I called you about it. And that's why I backed out of that other property. This one, I knew the house immediately to the south had a well back before the 80s, before they have the street water.
Yeah.
And so I felt really good about it. And there's not a ton of water, but it definitely meets the requirement. And especially that really tough 17-hour dry season test where you have to pump it 17 hours straight.
I had to do it for over 24 hours and managed to get it to qualify for my property. But Havens Neck, for you to get that accomplished at Havens Neck is extraordinary. John's water company is up to Havens Neck because of it not being able to be developed for years for no water. But I don't want to drag this on, but
I
double check with you on your.
Yeah, I would definitely do a dual well system, and we went with the 5-inch pipes, but you probably want to have them just do the 8-inch. It costs a little bit more, but that extra circumference wherever you do hit water will make a huge difference. That's kind of what I found out. I wish if I could go back in time, I would have done the 8-inch pipes, but
yeah, it gives you more stored water.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'll probably be reaching out to you here soon too.
Happy to talk to you.
All right. Are there any other comments from the audience? None. Bring it back to the council for further discussion or action. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve CDP M 2024-0010. Approve it as modified and presented. We have a second. Second by Lewis. Any further discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And I'll go ahead and write the letter to staff on that one.
And I'll just add my thanks for the presentation. That seemed like the right amount of information to be presenting. I feel like that was like a model applicant participation in the GMAC meeting. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for joining us. And I look forward to watching your project as it develops.
Absolutely. I'll definitely keep you updated.
And reach out when you're back in town.
I will for sure. Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, on to item 8.4, Coastal Development Permit 2022-0017, the Lowell Strauss project, and Councilmember Spock has this one.
Thank you, Chair Evans. And I would just to begin with my apologies, to my colleagues. I presumed that you wouldn't mind if I just took this one. We didn't have an opportunity during our 2 months absence to make a formal assignment. But you'll see that I wasn't really bargaining for a whole lot. Could you please put up the show?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Councilmember
do.
Hess? So there'll be a PowerPoint momentarily. Well, that's coming up. One of the things that drove me to get in front of it is that this is a notice of violation resolution, and it's time sensitive. Time is of essence because the county's trying to move this along. It's been dawdling for several years, and finally the applicant has decided to follow through with the commitments necessary to process the coastal development permit. But now time really is of essence because the property is in escrow, and so I didn't feel that we would want to delay this any more than necessary. So with that in mind, this is an after the fact CDP, and I know we don't like that. And I certainly don't appreciate it, but again, this is a code violation that was submitted in 2021, and the property owner has come forward to the county, is now attempting to work through it. So 7 large trees were removed and a existing fence was replaced. That's sort of the 2 elements. And I talked a little bit about this being a zoning violation. Again, this is county code enforcement. It's, application of codes in a stringent manner that, frankly, from my perspective, is beyond GMAC's remit, and they're working on it. Ultimately, the new owner, whoever is in escrow, and I don't have that information, they'll be obliged to comply with.
I don't think it's in this school, but.
That's my understanding in talking
Okay.
to staff.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. There was one element in the original application, removing a lean-to shed that's no longer part of the project proposal. The original project proposal also included an accessory dwelling unit. That's been removed as well. So we're just talking about trees. Bye. Oh,
No,
you had enough, huh?
no, I'm gonna get on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's pretty straightforward. So again, when we got this referral, when it was posted to the county's website, that was right in the middle of our our timeout. They were asking for comments by the 6th of January, and I didn't feel like any one of us would want to hang up anymore. Next slide, please. So this is a property that's on Old State Highway north of town. And this is, again, it might have been where the old highway was, but now it's a dead end street. Can you advance the slide when you have a moment?
Next slide.
Yes, please. Pretty small property for what it is, about a half acre. It's in a general plan designated area, zoned area for this type of use. Again, location just about a mile north of town on Old Post Highway, about halfway down the highway on the water side. This is the house that's been used for a number of years as a vacation rental. It's right on top of the bluff. The elevation here is about 45 feet up off the sea level. Very flat building site. The whole site's been modified at one point or another with construction, and now, of course, over the last several years with vegetation removal. There are some habitat values, but again, this is not pristine property. It's been handled, and that ultimately, this is a property one cannot see from the highway scenic corridor. However, it is in a scenic area because of its proximity to the coastal bluff. And when I went out there, I just looked at it from the public road. I didn't go on the site. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to move pretty quickly here. There's a site plan. I'm going to get up. See if I can. I didn't bring the laser pointer. Shoot. Okay. Anyway, what you see here in schematic, or in plan view schematic, the coastal bluff is on the upward part of the diagram there. The Yes, exactly. Thanks very much for joining. You see a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blue dots. That's where the cypress trees were removed. They were mature trees. And the fence that was replaced was essentially the entire perimeter. But most critically along Old Coast Road, there's essentially a grape stake picket fence in excess of 6 feet tall, right on the property line. So pretty tight picket spacing, and we're going to see what that looks like in just a second. Previously, the fence was about 3 feet tall. And so the violation in this case is that in that front setback, you can't impose a visual obstruction of the view of the ocean from the public road. So
Needs to be a see-through fence or something.
either see-through or nothing more than 3.5 feet tall, essentially is the height limit. And ideally see-through, but no higher than 3.5 feet tall. And you can see right about in the middle of the property, there's the house. It's a modest size house. Next slide, please. So here's another aerial you can see looking down. Now this is a shot. I don't have provenance on the date of this photo, but it was probably sometime in 2019 timeframe. And you can see the tree canopy that is now completely gone. You can also see a street view from dated 2019. This is still, up on Google Maps, but it's again 2019. You can see the canopy. One can debate the vigor of those trees, but again, cypress just sort of hang out and they'll persist for quite some time, looking kind of funky, but there they are. And essentially, the action to remove them occurred within a year, probably less, of the time of this photo snapshot. Next slide, please. So today, actually, the bottom left and the bottom left two shots were taken, the bottom left shot was taken by county staff in 2022. There was an original site review, and that's what the new fence at that point looked like. You can see it's quite relatively tall. It obstructs the house and, of course, by extension, the view of the ocean. The next one in the middle of the frame, that's what it looks like today. So, okay, fairly tall fence right along the travel way. Looking down the driveway, that's the one in the top right, looking toward the ocean. You can see the small house in the right, and that view of the ocean, again, along the driveway from the public street. You can see what's happened. That view has been opened up by the removal of the cypress trees. But for a member of the public traveling the street, you really can't see that except if the gate's open on the driveway. You can see the aerial on the right. That's a Google map shot, fairly recent. It's either 23 or 24, but you can see that the extent of the tree cover is gone. That's what the site looks like now from the aerial view.
What sort of a driveway?
I'm sorry?
What sort of a driveway is that?
Well, it's a dirt driveway, and it looks like they've got Visqueen on it, and perhaps there's some kind of work being done to stabilize the material. I think it's saw a lot of water. It's pretty mushy. Anyway, work's being done to, I guess, fix it up. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, talked with staff about this. This was referred to Department of Fish and Wildlife for any concerns regarding habitat values. No response has been received. Chances are they're not going to respond. The map on the right shows geological hazards, and although this is a fairly level lot, the stability of the bluff in this location goes everything from okay to pretty not stable. And so as a result of that underlying geology, planning staff determined that before anything else is put up on the property, another building, an ADU, or whatever, this needs to be evaluated by a geotechnical specialist, certainly in light of the removal of vegetation that might have been providing some stability to that bluff top location. In terms of penalties, the county doesn't have a lot of sticks that he can wield, but the big stick was double fees charged at the time of the CDP application. That's really the big one. And from here on, it's item number 3 is when talking with staff, this is what they're thinking they'll put as conditions of approval of the CDP in order to fully resolve the violation, which is leave the stumps, don't take them out, don't grind anything, don't further disrupt the ground surface. And, pulling those stumps out is going to rip out a bunch of all kinds of other stuff, including further destabilizing the ground and removal of roots and the rest of it. So don't make anything any worse from a geotechnical standpoint. Again, have a hard look from a geotechnical standpoint in the event that there's further development of the site. Either remove that fence that's too high or cut it down to 3 feet, 3.5 feet in compliance with zoning for restoring the scenic view along the public right of way. And furthermore, to disclose as part of this transaction, either probably not a deed description, but a disclosure as part of the next title document to inform the buyer that, yeah, this is a geologically sensitive location and that there are erosion hazards associated with this location and those have to be taken seriously. Next slide, please. So what we're being asked to do is support a CDP that's intended to resolve an active zoning violation and to do so in a timely way, and that's why I got in front of it. So please accept my apology for that presumption. The county's already implemented its primary penalty, which is double the cost of CDP fees. Those were taken in 2022. I think what staff is looking at is entirely appropriate for my judgment training. They're appropriate based on the types of effects that are in play. They're practicable. Nothing here is going to be rocket science or super expensive or unreasonable to implement. And I'd really like the idea of disclosure to the buyer that this stuff's happening. The real estate process does involve disclosures, of course, but tying that into the deed is one way to make sure nobody forgets that there's something of concern to the county going on here and to the subject. I'd like to recommend that we support the approval of the proposed DEP, subject to what the county staff have in mind.
Right. Any questions from council?
How tall is the fence right now?
It's over 6 feet tall. It's at least 6, and it's one of those. People think of, we'll put up a big fence and maybe we'll be a good neighbor because that's what neighbors do. Good neighbors have nice fences, but this is a fence that's these grape stakes that are tightly fixed, so there's really no way to see through them, even though they're slender sticks, and each one is topped with a point. So it's from a social standpoint, it's really an unattractive thing to see going down the street. It's like a pike.
And even if they had made it see through, it can't be above that height no matter what. Like even if you did like a standard frame out with just a wire fencing, like a lot of people do,
3.5 is the height.
That's the height.
That's the height limit. And I think a good neighbor would have said, oh yeah, 3.5 feet. My intention is to secure the property. Maybe I'll take a few of these sticks out so people can actually see through them. But anyway, that's being presumptuous.
Robert?
I'm wondering why a biological or botanical isn't part of a report or isn't part of this CDP or of the rehabilitation of this parcel.
It's a good question, Councilman Youngling. When I talked with staff, I got the strong sense that the damage is done. That staff wasn't going to ask for revegetation. That again, that wasn't a priority for resolving the violation.
Don't they still do an evaluation of what biological and botanical resources were there at one time?
Evidently not, and this is not a development project, so there's no new footprint being proposed that would disrupt whatever's on the ground today. So it's
because there was,
yeah.
I remember the property well. I knew the original owner, and the north end of it where it starts to get really narrow, the road there, that north part of the parcel, there was a lot of vegetation that was also removed along with these very huge cypress trees that were on the bluff, holding the bluff.
When I went out and looked at that north part, I was particularly curious for the same reasons that you're mentioning, Councilmember Youngling, that it looked like the only spot where there was something that had ecological value. I mean, And I can tell you that the coyote brush has reestablished in that semi drainage. So wherever there's some water, it looks like the native shrub and grass cover has come back. And it looks, it seems like it's in okay shape.
I've talked to botanists and biological people before, and usually that stuff will come back if it's just fallen down to the surface of the ground, yeah?
Right, and it's
So-
back.
Okay,
Yeah, so anyway, I hope that is helpful.
yeah, it's not a development project, okay.
There was no suggestion of replanting the cypresses?
No,
That would be maybe, that would be maybe devastating at this point, huh?
That would be very expensive.
To try to dig holes again and put them back on new ones. I was thinking the same thing. Once you cut them down, you can't put them back up again. Those were pretty, nice cypress trees that were there. Good.
Dan?
Somebody wanted a view.
Yeah.
Well, they do use the word remediate to work through inside of a permit. And I'm wondering what they are expecting to do with remediate.
I think these are the remediation measures. Don't take out the stumps, take down the fence. And put in a disclosure on title.
Yeah.
And that's it. Don't build anything unless, and first, having a complete understanding of I think the primary concern for the county is the geotechnical stability of the site. With those trees removed and any further disruption of that ground surface, they're probably worried that coastal bluff that erosion will accelerate toward the house.
Oh, well,
So anyway, that seems to be what the focus is.
that's what I thought, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Don, do you have any questions?
No, seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, it does stick in my craw a little bit, but this feels like a pretty brazen violation of environmental rules and like, it's kind of getting away with it, given the limited responsibility I think put on them. And I don't know exactly what the CDP fee is that was doubled, but obviously we don't have any sticks to wield here that the county doesn't have. So I'm not really registering this as an objection to our, response to this, just as an objection from a personal level. Like, I don't like the way this went, but
I don't either, and I don't like it. I don't like code violations. I worked for years as a county planner and did a lot of time to code enforcement. It is a nasty business. I don't appreciate the lack of, or the very stringent limitations that the county has to try to correct this kind of behavior. On the other hand, they really need to get it done. So they're doing the best they can, I think. It isn't going to be satisfying to any of us, but at least it's done.
Well, this would have been one of those perfect places for the state CDFW to step in and actually respond to that, but their resources are limited, but not near as the county.
Well, and we know that there've been some practices in recent years where people have removed mature trees without a grading permit and had to pay a fine to replace those trees. So it has been known to have fines levied on mature vegetation that has been removed without a coastal permit or a permit from the county. So yeah, the cypress trees, I don't know how mature they were, but I would suspect if they were fairly mature that there should have been some fine and required replacement of those in a coastal zone. So just my thought.
Yeah, no, in the CDP, they say removal of dead. But
And even then you have to pull a permit to get approval to remove the tree. Yeah.
But also, judging from what Dave was showing, the designation of those as dead trees seems.
Yeah. If you go back to that slide that shows, it shows the trees in 2019. Next one up. And, there's that aerial that obviously the light shows fairly full canopies in the aerial, but those trees, to me, they look kind of senesced. They look like they're aging out. And cypress do age out, and if they're not replacing themselves, and who knows what's going on the ground, generally speaking, it's not a suitable habitat anymore.
Especially if they're not hedged. That's the main thing. If they're not maintained and hedged over decades and kept as like large bushels, which is better for wind resistance too, like they'll just grow stocky and become more of a hazard.
So again, we don't have a lot of information, but when I talked with the planner, he's eager to get it done, get it off of his. And I don't think he's doing that as a matter of, being bureaucratic. He just realized this is one that the county doesn't have a lot of degrees of freedom. And he asked if possible, if GMAC would be comfortable rendering a comment within the short time frame rather than standard procedure. So anyway.
That way it doesn't fall on staff.
I definitely want to emphasize the disclosure of title from the town buying in place. I would absolutely want that. So.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? If not, John, do you have a comment? Nope. Okay, we'll entertain a motion from the council on how we should proceed.
I'll get in front of it again. I'd like to move that GMAC recommend to county staff that CDP 2022-0017 be approved subject to the conditions that staff has shared with GMAC as reflected in the presentation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Councilmember Hess. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I will report tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We don't have any old business. New business is the added item form 700 that's coming up and is required for all GMAC members to fill out. So David has some information on the timeline.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Evans. I talked with Ms. Bartolome this afternoon. She's the staff person in the county assessor's office, or anyway, clerk's office, who's dealing with the Farm 700 distribution. She's got to send notices to every local government in the county. So she's got a long list. She's getting to us. Long story short. So we'll get some sort of communication from her. It may come to GMAC at large, and I'll watch the post box. There'll be instructions. Unlike previous years, we will get an option this year to either print out and do a wet signature and send that in, or do a digital signature on a PDF and send that in, which is nice to have the option this year. Deadline will be the 1st of April. So I'll keep you guys apprised. And then if it comes electronically, of course, I'll push it out to you.
And just to note that if you don't turn it in on time, you are subject to a fine. So,
There is a fines, I believe.
yeah.
I believe it's, if I remember correctly, the daily fine.
I'm not sure what the latest amount was, but it's, yes, it was significant. Okay, committee reports. Before we start with the report, the current committee for Bower Park renovation consists of Dan Lewis, Henry Mayer, and Kevin Evans. Do you wish to still serve on that committee? Dan? Okay. The committee will stay. Is there anybody from the council that would like to serve in that position and be considered as well, or do we want to go with the 3 that are currently serving? Okay, hearing nothing on that. Henry, do you want to start? I know that we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with county staff. You want to give the update? And Dan and I can backfill.
I want to blow my nose really quickly, maybe could vamp for just a second.
Okay, I'll kick it off that county staff did an update on the Bower Park renovation project. It is moving ahead. Just a note that Doug Anderson is now the new point of contact. Tim Hallman is no longer in that capacity. And Mike Cook is the contractor, or the consultant, landscape consultant. They did say that they're looking at a projected construction time of 6 months. The project will not start until after Coast Youth Little League finishes their season, so they're looking right around the beginning of June, which is nice. They're not going to impact baseball season at all.
Sorry to interrupt. I cleaned up a bunch of notes I have from the meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm happy to run through it unless you.
No, go ahead. You're probably your notes are more thorough than mine.
I spent some time so I could start communicating with this stuff, but, right, so, current status, 50% construction drawings have gone to county planning staff and received feedback. 50 to 90% drawings exist for different aspects of the project. They have a playground design, which the, guy from Integra wanted to really emphasize it's still at a first pass, but they're, interested in feedback. Everything they said still open to comments and suggestions. And I'll come back to the feedback question at the end of it. So the expected timeline, they said 90% construction drawings should be submitted to the county in the middle of February. And then 100% drawings should be available in the first half of March for the bid packet. They plan to solicit bids in March, receive them in April, and use one in May. There's a coastal commission meeting probably in March, and they said that community support at that meeting would be appreciated. They're hoping to break ground the 1st of June and have a 6-month timeline, and therefore they are hoping to finish by the end of the calendar year.
Henry, could you go back to the previous item? I got 100% design and bid in March.
Yeah, and I can send you these notes as well. I should probably just distribute them to the council. We can put them up on the website. But I can also just repeat. Yeah. So
that one right after 100% design and bid in March. What was it?
Yeah, the bids would be solicited in March.
Yep.
Received in April and chosen in May.
Okay.
So that I've got some additional details about different aspects of the project. For the pond, they plan to preserve the concrete weir for the spillway because changing that in any fundamental way gets into state waters and CEQA issues, and they would like to avoid all of that. So obviously substantial repair on that, but fundamentally still going to be a concrete weir. They plan for it to span from one side of the spillway to the other with a metal deck topped by concrete and then asphalt with railing. The fencing, they plan to keep the current fencing. They refer to this as value engineering. They want to keep costs down as much as possible. They'll replace damaged chain link with new chain link. For the ball field, they're going to regrade the field for better drainage, reseed the outfield, redo the infield mix, the foul lines, and the warning track. Put in new backstop and chain link and have that go around to the dugout. Reconfigure the bleachers for accessibility and take the bleachers around the concession area. One thing is that there is not currently irrigation at that field. They are not intending to install irrigation, again, for cost reasons. We on the committee expressed our concerns about this. They heard it. I don't know, something I plan to follow up with them on is if they can sort of help us brainstorm how to keep this field alive. It'd be a shame to reseed it and then have it just die from not getting water. I think currently there's I think there is a sprinkler out there. There's just nothing automatic.
Right.
But I don't know if that can be a community run thing, if that's acceptable to them, if we can just like have the community take care of that. Anyway, that's an open question I need to follow up with them on. For the playground, new 2 to 5 playground, adjacent to the existing 5 to 12 playground. For the 5 to 12 playground, there had been discussion of replacing that. Their current plan is to repair and augment it, again, for cost reasons. They plan to replace the slides, the various broken pieces of that playground structure, the boarded up access point, expand the structure a little bit with a new platform, a new sort of climbing installation along the side, a couple new components, add they call it pyramid spinner, near that existing structure, add about 1,000 square feet to the area. They said they felt it was too expensive to do a full replacement. I have my own objection to this that I expressed, which is that structure is 25 years old, and the reason why it's falling apart now is because nobody maintains it, and we'll do this big capital project, and then nobody's going to maintain it, and old things break down faster than new things. So I'm worried that we'll just wind up in the same place we are now. They shared a budget document, which I've gone through a little bit. I understand the situations they're in. They quoted they thought it would be $180,000 more to do a full replacement. I think a lot of that cost being simply getting rid of the old structure. I think that should be a continued topic, but that's where they stand right now. Again, they're open to feedback, but that's definitely their plan. There was some discussion about outside funding for the park. They said
Sorry, before you move on past the playgrounds, do you want to talk about the small kids playground too, or is that later?
The small kids playground looks good. It's you know,
Okay.
it's nothing spectacular,
It's all
but
new. It's all new.
it's all new.
Okay,
Yeah, all
thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's some documentation for that. I mean, I would say it looks like a substantial improvement
Great.
over what exists now, and
Okay.
just the very fact of having them next to each other is also a big improvement. Having the small kids playground not be next to the parking lot is a big improvement.
Yeah.
There's a lot to recommend it. Sorry, I focus more on places where I have issues, but
Okay,
the 2 to 5, it looks like they did a nice job with.
great.
Thank you for that.
Sorry to interrupt.
So we had some conversation about outside funding. They said half donations would be acceptable, but in-kind stuff is really tough to work with. But they would need that funding to be nailed down prior to the award of the bid, which is an aggressive timeline to put together anything substantial. They do want community feedback, but they only want that feedback to come through the Bower Park Renovation Committee. They do not want to deal with large-scale public input again. They don't want to be hearing from a bunch of different people. They would like for us to perform our role of liaising between the county and the community. Again, the timeline is a little tight. So I was hoping we could have a conversation about how to operationalize that. And that was, I think, hit the high points of the meeting, unless anybody feels like I missed something.
Dan, you have any, I have some items that I'll backfill what Henry said, but go ahead if you have anything.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating because of the limitations that they set with their financial boundaries and stuff, and the timeline being so short. I don't agree with Henry about the penny wise and pound foolish on some of the things, but I understand his concern. About it.
Okay. Couple things they made really well. Let me back up. The playground area, as part of their cost saving plan, they're going with I think it's manufactured wood chips.
Oh, yeah.
As the surface. It's cheaper to install, but it costs more down the road to maintain. But as was pointed out in the meeting, if you have a regular maintenance program of the park, if you rake the chips back under the slides and under the swings, that, yeah, it's not that big a deal. The other thing too is it was pointed out that it gets very hot at times up on the ridge. And if you put the pour and play, the rubberized surface, it gets very hot and it emits fumes. So we want something that the children or the participants are going to be able to use that surface all year round and not be limited because of temperatures up on the ridge. Henry did mention that the two playgrounds are together, which is a bonus. You got something?
Sorry, just one more thing on the wood chips. One thing that I thought was particularly good about that is that that's community maintainable in theory in a way that
Anybody can go in there and
wouldn't.
smooth the surface. They are going to have two separate courts, one for bocce ball and one for tennis.
Pickleball?
Pickleball, I mean, not bocce ball, pickleball, which I thought was really good because there's a lot of confusion when you integrate a pickleball and a tennis court. You've got multiple lines running all over, which gets a little confusing. Plus, the two groups don't blend well together. And so, and all I have to do is ask anybody on the Sea Ranch and they'll confirm that observation. So they did put that in place. The only thing that I found unfortunate is that we are still not addressing either a stage area or performing arts area, that like the little amphitheater we have there. That's not in the plan, which I think is unfortunate because that was the focal point for many events like Cinco de Mayo and other events up there. And by not including that is a shame. The watering system, as Henry mentioned on the ball field, is important because they're only talking about a quick coupler with a hose. And so you're going to have dead spots. And once the grass starts dying, it's going to cost a lot to replace it. It's unfortunate that we don't have a source of reclaimed water to be able to water the ball field with reclaimed water and not use potable water. But I think they did a great job in their presentation, but the one thing they made two things that they made very, very clear that I want to share with the council tonight. One is they're not going over the $2.2 million. That's the cap.
Well, 2.2 plus the RCRC grant.
2.375.
Yeah.
Okay, 2.375. They do not have a current number for the increase in construction costs. They don't have an ongoing number right now. So everything that's being proposed right now may be a lot of it may be cost prohibitive because of the increased cost to labor and materials. So even though this is the plan we're looking at now, the county will not go above 2.37?
2.375.
375, that number. But that was made very clear to us. The other point that was made really clear is that they had not put in their budget for many years a maintenance budget on that park, and they don't have an intent on doing that again. They're not going to pay, they're going to build it, but they're not putting anything in their budget to maintain it. So that is something that they say they're having outside discussions to find another contractor or somebody that can maintain the park. But right now, they're going to be spending the $2+ million to upgrade the park, but they have no plan right now on how to maintain it. So, yeah.
does that notion by itself that they don't currently have a plan for maintenance, after the renovation? Does that hinder the project or the grant money itself? But it wasn't, I think we've had this conversation before, it wasn't a hard stipulation, to get the grant money, they'd have to do that, right? Is that, they don't,
That was in the resolution
okay,
from the state that they had to do the repairs and they have to maintain it. So I think that's why they may be entering into other discussions to find an alternate source for that. But at the present time, according to staff, and it's above their pay grade, there's nothing in the plan right now to budget money for any park maintenance. So.
Yeah, I think they plan to maintain it, they just don't plan to have money in the budget to maintain it, which will put us exactly where we have been this whole time.
But
it sounds like there's some possibility, yeah, I think they've got some discussion with the recreational district.
yeah, they mentioned that, and I would leave that discussion between the park district and the county, and when county staff has something concrete, they can report back to us on that. Any other questions, comments? Don?
First of all, thanks Henry for the detailed reports to sort of keep up with what's going on in the park. The one thing that sort of stood out to me was the idea of watering the play field, I guess. And the fact of the matter is, during the summer months and in the fall, we live in a drought environment. So water is precious. And where's this water come from? Potable water comes from basically the North Fork of the Gualala River. So I really would like to see a solution that does not require watering this field. Historically, we know what's happened with the golf course, right? The golf course is tapped right into the Gualala River to water the golf course. Well, that was put to an end, and now they use treated water,
right?
Which makes a lot more sense. I just don't think it makes any sense to water a play field in our environment. So I don't know what some other solution might be, but I'd like to see a solution. It also has another benefit. Water is not free, potable water.
Right.
So that's an ongoing cost that the park would have to pay for the water, which I would like to see them avoid.
But it's cheaper than a $500,000 synthetic outfield. And that's what they're going for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have the same problems that you have dealing with the synthetic turf area around the playground area with the heat and the environmental issues there. You would have the same there, and you would have to maintain it as well. So you're right, there's a give and take there. You can make it a synthetic surface, but I think it's cost prohibitive in their budget in the 2.375. But if someone wants to donate $500,000 or to put in a synthetic turf outfield in that, I'm sure that they would probably appreciate that.
That's the only option. Other option is a synthetic field.
Well, you could have decomposed granite. You can have, you can have a lesser surface, or you can let it die and hope that it comes back in the fall.
Which grass often does, usually does.
I think they're specking crabgrass, which will come back.
Yeah. So anyway, it's more of a maintenance question. And you actually don't have to run it off Gualala water. You could actually get you could pay a truck to come in and water it. You can do it from
that's probably more expensive than using
probably, but like I said, but there are other options. But we'll leave that to the staff people that are the professionals and
Okay, well, that just struck me and I wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
okay, on to,
I have,
Sorry.
yeah,
I have more things, but okay.
on the, on the
dog
park?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So they're expecting a 6-month long construction time. That would be June to December. Obviously, depending on what kind of winter we get, you know, that's possibly October, November, December gets a lot wetter. Is there any problem with, you know, the project being pushed into the new year? Is there anything that we need to be conscious of as far as, you know, what happens when, you know, aspects of the project get pushed back due to weather as it gets later? You know, do they have to get it done in 6 months, you know, no matter what? Is there a hard stop coming into the new year's?
Most projects, when they're working with an environment, get credit for time delays. So if they're closed down for a day, a week or whatever, then that gets tacked on at the back end of their contract. So it might be longer than 6 months if they submit a notice to the county saying that because of weather, they weren't able to work such and such a days, and they document that. So it doesn't impact their funding.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was also
runs till the middle of, until the following summer, so.
right. So
Well, so they have.
But there'll be construction, there'll be a maintenance period after construction.
mhm,
That's part of construction. So the county's still gonna be spending money
right,
on that grant. So there will be a lot of motivation for this thing to be done in 6 months.
right.
To hold in the time frame. There may be extensions due to force majeure like bad weather. But otherwise, from a regulatory standpoint, it becomes very difficult to work in the wintertime. From a mobilization and getting the work done standpoint, it gets hard to work in the wintertime. So there's gonna be a lot of motivation to get this thing wrapped up.
Yeah. And
it really isn't that big a project. So that's gonna be part of the contractor selection.
Makes sense. I was also wondering about, well, I really just want to kind of echo what the committee alluded to about the playgrounds. It's just doesn't seem wise to put new stuff on top of old stuff. But you know, that's just my 2 cents on that. I think that most of the community would probably agree. It would be a shame for the community to feel like they got shortchanged by the county on something as core of the park as the playgrounds. And again, you know, that has to do with what the maintenance is like going forward, and you know, that would move that along as far as how long that equipment lasts. But you know, I feel like it would be a shame to put new stuff on top of old stuff. Did you guys get any information about the dog park?
Yeah, that's not part of the phase 1 project. If other money
Okay.
comes in down the road, then they can implement that, but it's not part of the it's an option that could be added to the park.
Yeah,
But they don't have the money right now to
if-
fund that.
So if they, so that you're saying that it exceeds, whatever they budgeted for the dog park exceeds the grant money
Well,
currently?
so they sent along their 65% construction document budget. So these are all their estimates that they
Right.
put in. So they have the base, the project base. All that with their estimate comes to 1.5 million. They added a 15% contingency on top of that, why? So that gets them to their estimate of 1.75, which still leaves, you know, 600,000. And so then as part of this, they are gonna have addition, or add alternates, like, okay, if there's still money, then you could add this, you could add this, you could add this, and so there's a set of alternates with their own estimates. So those include group picnic area, walking path at the pond into the play area, outdoor fitness, equipment, dog park, some material upgrades and lighting. Those, if they all got in, which pretty confident they will not, those with their own 15%, those come to a little less than $500,000 with a 15% contingency bill. That adds up to $550. As we know, costs have gone up. There's just no chance all that stuff's gonna happen. I would say there's a pretty good chance none of that stuff's gonna happen. I don't know. And I think that is that's all stuff that would be additional so that it could get added well into the project. Like that would be part of the bid, is they would be bidding and say, okay, and then this would be X amount.
Makes sense.
It's hard to do new playground equipment as part of that kind of structure because you won't know at the outset whether some of those additions can come in because the cost is, it's going to be, cost plus budgeting. So what it costs is what it costs and they cannot go over. So that's why it's structured this way. Is all those things have to be things that are additional. So dog park is not necessarily out of the project. And one of the things they would like feedback on is how the community would prioritize these different additions.
And is the basketball court?
Basketball court's in the base.
That's part of the base. Okay.
That's part of the base. So
really exciting.
And that's staying as the full court.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that, there's good picnic stuff. There's I can they don't want to spawn like massive conversations that they have to respond to. They said they were comfortable with us putting up some of these documents on our website. They were a little reluctant to put it on the county's website as like spawning these like larger conversations that they don't really have time for because that adds cost as well. They were comfortable with us putting it on our website, which I think is a topic we should discuss. And then I would love to have at least a brief conversation about how people think we should collect feedback to get back to them from the community.
Do you know, did the county tell you exactly what the scope of the outreach was? What is it? Particular elements of the project? Is it what do they?
What do they want feedback on?
Yeah, there's a limited amount of time. There's a deadline, right? Yeah. And what are they particularly seeking input on, and specifically, hopefully? Specifically.
I would be very interested to get checked on this by Kevin and Dan, because to some extent this is interpretive on my part. They really emphasized that the playground stuff was first pass and still in flux. I think that is an area where they're very receptive to feedback. I think prioritizing the additions is something where they haven't really prioritized them, and I think they would be very interested in community feedback on that piece, especially because that does not add a lot of work for them. I think that there is room for feedback on other aspects of the project, but I don't know that they're eager for it.
What's their deadline?
Good question. I would say they were vague on what the deadline is.
Well, if they stay to their deadline of putting the thing out to bid in March and have 100% design in March, 90% design in February.
Yep.
We got a hump.
Yep.
So what we suggested to them is we would float the program to the council tonight. We will get feedback back to them right away. and that they would make a presentation at our March meeting. And they would be able to incorporate that in their design plan and finish with their 100%. So my suggestion, because I don't want to dwell on this too long, is we have a lot of stakeholder groups in the area already. Through Fixbauer Park, through the Little League, through the soccer group as well. I would say reaching out to North Gualala Water to find out, get some numbers, see what it's gonna take with a turfed outfield. And what the cost is gonna be there. These are things that we could kind of reach out to. We all have people in the community that we deal with. And I would say reach out to anybody and everybody to get some immediate feedback, because it's going to be the user groups that are going to be weighing in on this. It's not going to be the general public, that many of them don't even know where Bauer Park is. But I think the young people with the children that would use the playground is critical. The youth sports groups is definitely a stakeholder group that we need to engage with, and also with the water district.
So your approach that you're recommending, Chair Evans, is for individual council members to do their outreach and then record input that they get and then present that input during the March meeting. And we roll it and conclude at that point.
Is everybody good with that? We would send one recommendation after our March meeting to the county based on our review and input.
That's really pulling it pretty tight for them.
It is tight,
but
the problem that we're running into is the whole bid process. If they don't have their 100% construction drawings, they can't go out to bid, which means they can't find a contractor, which then changes that June starting date to July or maybe even August. So yeah.
So
I know it's a tight time frame, but I believe we can do it.
Well, sorry, no, go ahead.
I mean, an alternate idea we could have a special meeting, here or elsewhere, and try to invite interested parties to come and join that conversation. That way we can get things to the county a little earlier, and have a little bit more space for that conversation. Maybe try to time it in a way that we get more families coming in. I know that was a problem when the county did its own meeting, that they scheduled it like on Little League opening day, and a lot of interested parties weren't there. I think that sounds like a better way to go about it to me.
Then can you put together a couple ideas for dates and locations?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll just circulate that and just get a consensus. We don't need a vote. We'll just get a consensus. I would recommend, based on meetings that we've held with other groups, don't have it during dinner time, during midweek or during the week.
Yeah.
Stay away from Saturdays, because that's usually your youth sports days when kids are playing their sports activities. So that only leaves Sunday. Yeah, we can do Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday or President's Day weekend, not ideal. Or President's Day
You'll
weekend.
need notice advance period as well.
I would say maybe, top of my head, either February 23rd or March 2nd would be viable Sundays. Again, the 9th is Super Bowl, the 16th is President's Day weekend, so the 23rd or the 2nd would be better options.
Why?
Sorry.
I would say go to your group and find out what that looks like on their calendar. The Fixbauer Park group. Send out a quick email. I can contact both leagues, both the baseball and the soccer to see what,
Yeah,
what their availability is.
take their temperature because, yeah, it's a tight window. I'm 100% down for public comment, especially in person. That's, you know, that's the best part of being in a small community. I think at the same time, I think we can try to schedule that as best we can, but if, you know, as individual members of the community kind of do both versions where we all talk to all the people that we know and just get our own, you know, personal catalog of what we're hearing from people and friends in the community on an individual level. Because we don't want to not do that and then have a scheduling, you know, issue fall through and not do it at all. So we want to definitely, with the limited time we have, if we can do a version of both, if that makes sense. You know, I'm leaning towards it's probably not realistic to get a community meeting that quickly. I would love it, but I don't want to fall short on getting information and not also do. I'm gonna do my own personal outreach to people I know and just, you know.
Well, I would believe that Fixbauer Park, the Little League, the soccer group, they've got an email mailing list that they send out.
Yeah.
So if they send out a quick blurb to their members saying, we would like your feedback on what you would like to see in the playground or on the ball field or Bauer Park as a whole. I think they might get a quicker response and we would get the notice out there quicker by going that route. And then if we feel a meeting is important, yes, but I think immediate notification to those stakeholder groups right now, and we have the means to do it through both our internal email lists, that we could get immediate feedback from them.
Just a recommendation, we're on time. We're deep in the pipe. We're rolling back to input on whatever people feel about the whole park is not going to be productive, with all due respect. I'm going to strongly recommend you stay focused on the items in the current most advanced set of plans you've got, which is what, 65%?
Yeah.
Try to make the questions really specific, very discreet. If we go back to blue sky, not only will the county not be able to do anything with that input, which will be very frustrating for people, we may jeopardize the project's implementation. We may fall off schedule. So try to keep the questions discreet, specific, no blue skies, no speculation. We're going to have a series of conversations, which gets us close to the Brown Act edge. Be very careful, please. Don't talk about the project, just get the input. And then write it down, and that'll help us compile quickly for the March 5th meeting. I think it's really important to do this last outreach effort, should stay very focused on it. And then just as important, not slow the county down, because every minute is another dollar.
So we can land the plane here. Why don't the 3 committee members put together a list of questions, run it by each other, and then that list of questions we will send to the groups. So following what David's saying is, we have specific questions that we want answered. We know the parameters, we know what we're looking at. So I think that between the 3 of us, we could probably come up with a pretty succinct list of questions. And you're right, I think the turnaround would be a lot quicker. The information would be very succinct and the county would be able to use it. Thank you. Are you guys fine with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have one further suggestion, which is I think we should put at least a subset of what the county and Integra sent to the committee up on our website, so that we can direct people as we're doing this outreach. We can direct people to that. I think it would be good if we get together as a committee, we can formulate the questions and decide what and how we're going to put up that information, like what diagrams, what documents, etc. And then we can send that to Don to hopefully put up on the site. And then the only other thought I had is, would it make sense to put something up at Bauer saying, if you, I don't know, give it, because my concern is, I don't want to limit this feedback to only the people who are in our network. There's a, group of people who use the park, they would be the people who are most invested in answering these questions, and I don't know if putting some signage up saying contact us gives a path for people who might otherwise slip through our networks to give feedback to us.
Come up with a notice and we can post it.
Okay, great. All right, so let's get together, let's chat
Okay.
by email or whatever, figure out a time for a committee meeting, and then we'll get our ducks in a row and stuff.
And we'll, if you haven't already, we'll contact Doug Anderson so we can put renderings up on our website. So if people are trying to look at what the playground looks like, where it's located, whatever. I think they were hesitant on sending out a lot of the preliminary details on the design of the playgrounds, but I think we could definitely show locations.
Yeah, I mean, they said so long as it was given with the appropriate context, they were okay with us sharing it with people.
You get quickly into a place where you have to explain everything.
Yeah.
So there is a really nice master plan exhibit that was published as part of the draft mitigated negative declaration, public document. So if you publish that figure, that map, that's already out in the public realm, and it has all the details of what goes where on the site.
Yeah.
It's a very attractively rendered piece. It's easy to read.
Yeah.
Also, there's a succinct but fairly specific description of the project in the draft initial study, page and a half long or page long with bullet items. That also can be published. You don't have to recreate it. Yeah. Just do what you can to keep it really simple, very straightforward, no debate. And one last thing, the county's shared administrative draft materials with the committee. It's very difficult for the county to contend with a lot of interaction about stuff with drafting. And it's a big storytelling exercise for any one of you to explain what draft means. It's in black and white, people expect it will be. So another recommendation, stick with stuff that's already been published. It's in the public realm. And then I think you're going to get good results from that.
Yeah. Yeah, the stuff that's been published is a little light on the specifics of the playground, specifically.
Add
Is
some
that
more
what you're
narrative for
thinking?
that. That's really the part of one of the questions, though, right?
Yeah,
Is what to do about the playground.
I'll say that map with a few bullet points like that. Yeah. Good job.
Great.
We could build the fact that it's unknown.
Pardon me?
We could build the fact that there are a lot of unknowns into the statement. This is a draft, all caps, bold.
Do what you gotta do.
Beat them over the head with it.
Where can we other council members see the draft stuff you were talking about? I haven't seen it yet.
If you go to the county website about the Bar Park Rehabilitation Project, there's a link there that'll take you to the draft initial study mitigated habitat. Comments period has closed, but the document, I'm expecting the document still up.
I've seen it. It's nice that there's a whole chronology of beginning to present.
They told the story well. Can I just, to close really briefly, I know you want to move on, sorry.
No, go
There was
ahead.
a question about what's going on about O&M. This is a really big problem, and I know we're all concerned about it. So I can tell you with confidence that the Pacific Coast Recreation Park District has been talking with the county about permanent operation and maintenance of the park. I can't provide many more details because frankly, I don't have any, but one of the crucial issues revolves around the Recreation and Park District's financial capacity to maintain the park. We don't have a clear understanding what that capacity is. We expect to have that sometime this year, but in the meantime, there are conversations on it.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'm not gonna even ask if there are any other comments or questions. Item 11.2, Robert. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Thought about alternative mean, if watering the playing field is important.
No, the county, in our discussions with them, only had one option, and that was using the quick coupler and a long hose. So nothing has really been explored with them yet, but if you have any ideas, if you could send it to my email, and I'll be happy to forward those to the county with some suggested ideas on how to maintain a turfed outfield.
Well, I had a couple, and I just wanted real quick, because this has been a long, drawn out.
Okay.
Deal, but, one is that there was another pond in the county there, and it's still there, I believe. Could be lined and additional water stored in it.
Oh.
When the rain overflows upon the park.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody would be willing to think about removing the water from the pond of the park. If you take it down a little bit, if it's even, you know, something that might work. But if the other pond is lying, there's a liability, but it's not part of the park. And the water, you would have some water for some time.
So are you talking about the pond on the RCRC?
Yes.
Area? Okay, the lower pond there.
I call it the lower.
Yeah.
That's a great option. We can float that idea by the staff, but yeah, utilizing existing water sources, finding a pump system that can pump the water to the other parts of the park, especially the ball field, would be a great idea.
I know that procedures for drilled wells around because we're gonna have it all.
Right.
And most of those are only about 40 feet deep. And there was surface water and some water for the early part of the summer, but after that it dried up and we just didn't have the water. There may be some other sources that might work. I don't know if you don't have to dig at that one. You might be able to put in another well and it might work. And again, you know, those things are expensive.
Yeah, that's, I think the cost factor is really gonna be huge, because they really didn't even want to explore going beyond a quick coupler and a long hose, so.
The budget's drawn really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's a great idea.
And with RCRC, you've got two different property owners then, right?
Right.
And then the other thought I had, but that's probably not possible, would be to bring tertiary treatment water up there, but that's truck it up there or something, but that's not feasible either.
That would be, talk about
Trucking, yeah, talk about cost, right? It's
Yeah.
not feasible either, so, well was a good idea. But
I don't know.
Short of having a sewer district that needs to get rid of tertiary treated water and can't do it at the golf course.
Oh, they'll be in.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they no
have-
longer have the golf course.
They have to still move there.
You have to pump it back across the river and then up there.
Sounds like a bargain.
Does. Okay, on to 11.2, Caltrans SR1 Gualala downtown enhancement. Okay, on the committee right now is Spock, Mayor, and Finley. Do we want to maintain that group of three? Does someone else want to? I hate to take Melissa off of it, but Melissa's attendance is, we appreciate that she's getting better in her health, but we're not sure about her continued attendance. So I would not want to keep her on it. I want to keep her on the council, but I don't know about her participation at a committee level right now. So we have two options. We can add another person to it if we'd like, or we could just have Melissa off it, and we'll take Melissa off and add one other person, or take Melissa off and just go with two. So I will, Dan?
Can we have somebody fill her seat on that committee in an interim basis?
We could do that too.
Are you, is the council allowed to take her off the committee if she's not here to vote on it?
Yes.
Yeah, because the chair can kind of, sets up the committees, but we do it based on everybody's input. So the pleasure of the council is to take her off the committee, put someone else on, and then revisit it when she comes back, because we're not sure how she's gonna be when she comes back, if she'll be able to participate in full or whatever, or do we want to just go with two?
May I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Continuity is important, and Melissa's been away for a while, and she perhaps will be away for a while. Now it's gonna create a dead spot in her understanding of what's going on and tracking the history of it. Henry, I think you've been paying very close attention to the project as much as you have time to do that, and you're actively engaged with it as a thinking stakeholder. I am also continuously involved in monitoring the progress and other engaging with the project in other venues. I feel like the two of us can probably continue to cover the matter adequately, unless there's another person here on the council who's got a burning desire to be at least named in a committee.
Could have an alternate.
It's a question of continuity and attention. So
Yeah, I'm okay either way. If somebody else wants to join in, I don't have an objection to that, but yeah, I agree. I think we can take it on, the two of us as well.
all right.
Well, it doesn't seem like either Dan, Todd, or myself are looking at taking on another committee, so why don't we go ahead and go with the two right now? When Melissa comes back, we can revisit that at that time. Okay, so the committee assignment will be Spock and Mayor. Do you have a report for tonight? I know you've been gone, but you've been back for a month.
Smattering of stuff. Henry, I think, do you want to cover anything that's happened in the intervening period?
Honestly, they've been fairly uncommunicative, and I think that's in large part because I think they're still working through right-of-way stuff and working with property owners, and I think they're just not talking a lot about what's going on at this point. I'm still hoping to get more communication with them, a meeting with them, but I haven't followed up yet in this calendar year. So I was a little more focused on the Bauer Park stuff, but I should follow up and try to get a meeting up with them before our next council meeting.
Okay. Caltrans published their milestone inventory in December. The project is still on the same track, no slippage, at least in the major milestones. So we're still looking for construction to start Q1 2026. It's not unusual for there to be kind of a lot of silence during right away because these are private negotiations. I did want to mention, although it's not the project, but just a quick update on the sinkhole at the bottom of Old State Highway. Both Caltrans and County DOT are aware of that failure, which was detected in November. I understand that District 1 staff is pursuing a director's report to get emergency funding for an emergency project. And I trust this is going to be a news article for a while, and we'll keep each other updated as things progress. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have just one quick question about the streetscape. Just a simple design question. I don't remember last time I looked at the most recent rendering. Is there going to be any street lighting?
No.
There's no street lighting.
Any questions from the public? John?
Yeah, I just have a few items that I'm concerned about, and you know I am. I don't know if the community can survive. The business in the community are going to be affected by the taking and parking funding to property. Usually in- Can't provide, parking either, business. This is probably gonna go on for some money. You know, I don't know what people will get rid of it. Supposed to be considered in their review of the economic impact. And that's part of the review. And I'm thinking that we're going to be in a very difficult position. It puts us and the government partnership with the owners of the property in a harsh position to try to survive. And look at what's there in the street. In fact, over half of the streetscape property does not belong kept. Goes back to my husband and my mother. And so it's our partial, basically, as far as we can consist taking that away from it and taking the street parking on the side of it. It's severe, and I don't know whether you guys want to see this report for the life of it. And, you know, we're asking that question. So I think that the streetscape is the one bullet.
Yeah, we're not allowed to respond to that, only ask you questions.
You're gonna ask the question.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bauer? If not, thank you, John, for that. It is in our minutes. Robert, welcome back. Can we jump to the local coastal program town plan? Because
Yeah, you need to do something.
yeah, I'm gonna excuse myself for a minute.
All right, real fast. GRI did another progress webinar on the 16th of January. I think you were able to attend.
Part of it, yeah.
Okay. Useful. All the technical reports are in motion. All the technical studies are in motion. The county will be preparing a request for proposals for the CEQA impact study later. So they're working on that. The GRI is doing a great job just putting information out. They get the county to talk, they get the coastal commission to talk, they get other stakeholders like the city of Fort Bragg to speak. So it's very useful exchange of information and very useful and efficient kind of window into what's going on. But right now, all the activities about the technical studies, so we're just not going to hear much until the final technical studies are published. And at that point, those sources of data are going to be available for the public to look at. But there aren't going to be any questions to the public about what people think about those technical studies. They're deemed technical studies, not really the fodder for public input. Public input will be solicited at the point of fairly well mature draft policy documents. And I don't have a schedule for that in my notes, but that's what's happening. So if you get the notice for the DRF update in March, I encourage you to dial in if you've got the time. Pretty interesting content.
Yeah, the only comment I would make is that a lot of the discussion that I heard, in the last meeting was really around aspects of the coast north of us.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I didn't hear anything about the South Coast.
Nope.
Nothing. So I guess we really kind of have to wait until till the county organizes some kind of a public meeting for us, which they will have to do regarding this coastal plan. And then we'll be able to focus on this part of the coast, which will involve the town plan.
Yep.
Okay, so the member is Councilmember Spock. Is there anyone else that wants to serve on that or continue as is? Okay. David, you got the lead on that. Jumping back to Gualala Community Center reconstruction and master plan, the member is Evans. Is there anyone else that would like to serve on that as well?
No, thank you.
You get the prize.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, real quick on just an update. Where we're at right now is trying to raise money to build the project. It's a $7 million project. We have about $2.5 million right now between insurance and private donations. We have a $2 million grant pending right now with the federal government, thanks to Jared Huffman and the Community Facilities Project Grant. That is on hold, and as you may have seen, if you watched any television, listened to any radio, or read any papers, there's a recommended freeze on all funding of projects. The community center is in that funding freeze. So right now that's $2 million that we're hoping but may not happen. We have a communication into Senator Pro Tem Mike McGuire for funding support as well. We've sent him the appropriate documentation. He's very aware of the project and has submitted a letter of support in the Huffman packet to rebuild the community center. We are now asking the state for $2 million, but I will preface it that request went to him prior to the fires in Southern California. So right now the state is already approved $2.8 billion in fire aid to the residents and families in Southern California. I don't know what that's going to do to our request, but the timing definitely isn't there. But that's where we're at. We're still proceeding forward. We're going through the permit process. They're looking at the construction drawings to do a final building permit. We're still scheduled to break ground in June 2025 with a 14-month construction period. So right now it's really all hinges on our federal and state government if they're going to be able to push us over the finish line and be able to build the community center. But any questions, Don?
Yeah, I'm just curious, since it seems like these funding requests to the federal government and the state are certainly not guaranteed at this point. And so there's a big question mark as to whether the community center will get this money. Do you have a plan B in case that doesn't happen?
Right now we're turning over every option for grants out there, but all grants are competitive. To find any grants that are going to provide the funding in the $1 million range are few and far between. There's a lot of grants out there for 40,000, 50,000, 100,000. We've even seen a couple that we've applied for one for 500,000. But as you can imagine, for a $500,000 grant, there's a lot of people that are very excited about applying for that as well, especially with the funding freeze. There's a lot of groups like us that are having to now look at other options. We're going to push forward and for your calendars, March 15th is the big day. That's when Congress has to vote on the new budget, the new funding. We're part of that budget decision. So we will know on March 16th, where a major part of our funding source, what the status will be. I would also suspect too, I have no knowledge on it, but the state's support for our project may hinge on the federal government's approval of the project as well. So, yeah. So it's gonna happen rather rapidly. And so we'll just keep pushing forward. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Yes.
If the community center does come up short by the projected, construction, time, does that halt the project altogether, or is there, I don't know how this stuff works, so is there like a piecemeal thing where you do the first, section of however much money you have budgeted for, like whether it's just, demolition, foundation or something like that, or is it just, if you don't have the numbers, the project's halted altogether?
The great question. The problem we run into right now is the window of opportunity for a general contractor. Right now, we're on the books with the general contractor to start in June. If we're not able to come up and guarantee the cost to build that building, then he will pull his contractor's bid. Our local contractors have indicated right now that if we were to ask them for a bid to do the general construction for the building, it's going to be started right now. If we were to obligate that contract right now, it would be 2027. The other problem we're running into as well, once again, it's the tariffs. And a lot of the construction materials are coming from Canada, especially wood and lumber. That's an added 25% cost to the project. Potentially. The other part is right now we're hearing from our general contractor in the area to expect a 10% increase this year alone in construction costs. So on a $7 million building, that's $700,000. So the price tag is not going to go down. It's only going to go up. And if we as a community have a problem and can't get the funding to fund a $7 million building, will we have the funds to build a $10 million building in 3 years? I'm not sure.
No.
But that's where we're at. And
Same goes for us,
we'll keep our fingers crossed. And yeah, well, and let me not paint a doom and gloom. If we do not fund this project, that's not to say that we can't go back to the drawing board and produce a smaller scale project. We'll have to check to see what our exemption obligation is with the county right now. Our exemption means we don't have to go to the Coastal Commission. If that permit runs out, or if that exemption runs out, then we have to follow the same guidelines as everyone else. So then we have to get the design, submit it to the Coastal Commission, which will tack on more time on the project, which means more cost. So a lot of things waiting in the wind. Economic development. Robert, do you have anything?
Committee. Constitution. You guys want to stay? You want to stay on that? Do you want to remain as a?
We basically.
Oh, do you want to stay on
we could,
economic development?
we could try to, but basically we just try to see what, is it Mendocino County's doing for us, right?
Mhm.
And, we can both keep tabs on that, I would think.
Okay, so Robert and I will stay on that. The one big item right now for economic development that I can think of is working with Visit Mendocino to see what the status is of the entryway sign, which I know that Robert and Dave and I met with the representative of, I don't know, a while ago, wasn't it? What the county is doing right now is, or what Visit Mendocino is getting is a sum of money, I think from Caltrans actually, to put entryway signs at all of the 5 major entrances to Mendocino County. And it's gonna say, welcome to Mendocino, and it's gonna go work in the same location right now as the wood sign. They were in the design phase. I don't know if they had secured the funding yet, but I'll reach out to them again and see where that's at. But that would be really nice to have a nice entry sign.
They're gonna put it closer to.
Yeah, so you won't have to turn your head quickly to see the sign. And our request also was to have it solar lit, so you could see it at night as well. John?
Real quick one. You all know that the county planning called for the streetscape to be quite a bit longer than it is now. And with that combination of the pothole and sign and other things that have been discussed in the past, including around that, I think it would be really wonderful. Also, really unique for this, so that we wouldn't have to go all south and we go up to the idea. But otherwise, there's a short term. You and it's gone. So, I think they could design around that and you guys could help in that design. With an entry sign, welcome to Mendocino County, to the North Coast. It will help make it look better.
Yeah.
Especially if anything wants to stop. I say let's see if we can help parents to open up. I mean, they talk about $1 per room. That in itself would complete the south end of, if it was tied to Center Street, would complete the south end of the streetscape that was part of the county plan. I don't know what you think. Fabulous. House that you are creating.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion, and we have 2 committee members, and we can have them explore that recommendation. If they feel that the council needs to take action on it, we can adjourn.
Great idea.
We can put that we can put that on the next agenda.
Well, we pretty obviously Caltrans is gonna have to dig up that air section. It was gonna be covered. And because of the society, there's has been around across the 501 section is Mendo. Space. You know, we have a couple problems.
Yeah.
One is that underground district gets water up until about June, and it comes out at the lowest surface fall. That puddle you see down there at that intersection. And you know, people will splashing through it and bubbling up water until at least June.
Yeah.
until that's kind of corrected, that intersection is still a problem. So it's a problem, and could have a one.
Well, it's duly noted in our minutes, and we have two committee members that are very active on that committee, so yeah.
I'll just say, the roundabout, we pushed for it early in the streetscape, and they brushed us back hard
Right.
on that for cost reasons. I don't think that's something we need to.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something we need to agendize in the near future. Like we
We gotta keep our eye on the topic, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting idea. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. Item 11.6. The website, social media, telecommunications, community broadband access, Hess and Mayor. You guys still want to serve on that? Is there anybody else who would like to join that committee?
I mean, it's basically just Hess. I'm just a name on the committee. I do very little.
You're there for continuity's sake.
So. But I'm happy to continue, and, you know. if
You are a
need to-
potential backup. for the
Yeah,
website.
yeah. If you need anything more, I can also, you know, I can help more, especially as the other two committees like wind down at some point. But I'm happy to keep doing what I'm doing. I just want it understood. This is all, like, Don's the one who does the actual work.
Well, I think it's
He'll get the
important
whole
that you,
salary then.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important that you stay on the committee.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, you know, so you could participate, for example, in testing the website and stuff like that. So I think it's good to have you, even if, you end up doing most of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's really largely one person.
Yeah.
Work in any event.
You have an update?
So in terms of the website, I haven't made tremendous progress. I'm starting to look into the ADA requirements, which hopefully won't be too complicated. May require submitting the website to a test service to see if it passes muster. I've implemented the page caching system, which hopefully will speed up performance of the website, which I found a problem on our old website. I think our old website is not terribly fast compared to other websites that people often go to. So hopefully we can perform better. So yeah, not tremendous amount of progress to report yet, but I'm working on it.
All right. Any questions?
And the community broadband access, I haven't really looked into that much. So I'm not sure what is going on there, if anything. I don't know if anybody else has heard anything, but have you, Henry?
Well, there was a project in 2020, I think in the early part of 2024, that I had heard from our supervisor that they were looking at doing running an underground line from Point Arena down to Gualala River. And that they were gonna be securing funding for that. And that there was a contact person that
This would be 5.
they were gonna put me in touch with, and crickets, so, yeah. And I just saw Fort Bragg is doing their broadband approval to provide that service in Fort Bragg, but.
We got 2 minutes till 9 o'clock.
Oh, are you telling me I'm being too wordy?
No, I did that earlier. I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay,
That's already happened.
yeah. Okay, then I won't say anything more than that. Item 12.1.
Were we gonna talk about anything else as far as other committees or? At this
Do you
point-
feel there's another committee that we need to add, or?
I only thought I'd bring it up, but we had a water committee at one point in time. Is that something that the council members feel that would be necessary again or not? I mean, I'm just making a suggestion.
It may be in a future time, but
Okay.
not present.
Quite right.
Just on that topic, keep your eye on the LCP process, because the county is doing a countywide draft resiliency study and climate change resiliency study, and one of the technical studies in the LCP is water supply.
That's a good recommendation we can look at.
We can set up a new committee whenever.
Yeah, we can.
deem it-
Yeah.
it useful.
Okay, treasury report. We have invoices from Mendocino Community Network for our annual internet domain hosting. We also have a payment to the ICO for the legal ad that notified everybody that we were going dark on the January 5th, no, 2nd. And we also have our annual post office box rental. Recommendation is to discuss and acknowledge payments. Are we within what we're supposed to do this time? Because I know that last time you had said we didn't notice it correctly.
There had been we had missed something in the agenda.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're all good.
Are we okay? Total amount of money. The total amount of money that we would be requesting is what?
they've already been requested, that's it, to the county.
Okay.
MCN for domain hosting, or for website hosting and domain name was a total of $179.40. PO box, I sent in for the whole $72 per year rather than half that for half a year, because there's no point doing it twice.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing remaining is the ICO bill, which I just got the actual paperwork on, and then we'll get that to Danielle Fitz on Monday.
Okay, so those are all operational expenses, so we really don't need approval. They're more of a
Discord.
Yeah, I have a question. The invoice from MCN, you mentioned domain hosting or registration.
What they've got is standard yearly website for $119.40. And yearly domain host rate, $60.
Domain host rate.
Yeah. I mean, that's not domain name, I misstated that, domain host rate, which is, I guess, included or something additional to the standard yearly website.
Yeah, okay, so it's not domain registration, it's domain
No.
hosting, and yeah, they still host our domain. Their servers are the domain servers that we use,
Right,
so
so that's what they're getting paid, $179.40.
then that's fine.
And what are we supposed to reimburse you for?
You should have
Well,
got
that was, I believe, for the domain registration,
it. Okay,
which was what, some odd dollars, it was for a 10-year period.
yeah, that was some months ago, you should have got that already. Huh?
We hadn't got, no, because we hadn't approved it.
Yeah, wait,
Prove it.
that was the thing that didn't get on the agenda. Did we not deal with that in December?
No.
All right. We have to get that on the agenda for March.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been
this
kicking this down the road. It's the reimbursement to Don for the payment of
The domain registration.
the main registration.
There
No,
was an agenda, there was a time where it was on the draft agenda, but wasn't on the published agenda that we sent out, so we decided to kick it out to the next month, and then we didn't do it then, and we're not doing it this time, so.
Who messed that up? Okay,
I'm glad we're not in video.
okay, so this needs to be agendized in March.
Yes, please.
Okay, can somebody send me the words for that, because I've lost it. Okay, just send me the words and I'll make sure it's in the agenda.
I can tell you
I
right
need
now,
an email.
it's reimbursement for domain registration.
Okay, got
Okay.
it, thank you. Boy.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Don, sorry.
It's domain name registration.
Every time we started to go through it, then I was corrected by our parliamentarian, and so then we kicked the can down the road.
Sorry, everybody.
It's okay. Okay, any items from council or any council member comments?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna go fast. Okay, remember the regional transportation plan, active transportation plan update is ongoing. If you haven't found your way to the website and made comments, please do that. It's really important that it's an interesting web interface, web map and other questions. Now's the time to do it. Please do, please give more input. The South Coast, I need your help. I need your voice to keep on talking up the
That's
South
on the
Coast.
IMCOG,
Tell your
right?
friends.
That's on the IMCOG site.
It's at MCOG.
Yeah.
Tell
Tell
your
your
friends. Go
Can
for a
you send
bad
us-
time.
can you send us an email?
All right, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Resend.
Is that it?
No, sorry,
Oh,
taking notes. Also, MCOG will conduct the annual Unmet Transit Needs Public Hearing during their next Board of Directors meeting on the 10th of February. You're concerned about unmet transit needs, show up at the website, and there's a teleconference link there. I won't talk about CDP referral coordination, just want to encourage us to be as efficient as we can with this thing, as we talked about today. Time is money, costs are escalating like crazy, and they're only going to go up. So to the extent that we can move these referrals through our pipeline as expeditiously as we can, I think we're going to be helping everybody out, including ourselves. I have a promise from the county to learn quicker when those referrals are hitting us. So I'll push them out as soon as I learn about it, rather than wait for an agenda. That way you guys will know what's coming. I want to congratulate Zachary Hayward on his appointment to the Mendocino Coast Recreation and Park District. Thank you for joining us. Good job. I also want to note that the district and the city of Fort Bragg have concluded the transition of the CB Star Aquatic Center ownership, operation, and maintenance fully to the city. The district concluded that transition by approving a transfer of $100,000 that had been donated to the district for the sole purpose of aquatics to the city for their application at the Star Center. This is really good news. It's a nice transition. I also want to mention that MCRPD and Mendocino LAFCO have approved a memorandum of understanding to fund and implement a municipal service review this year, and I'll keep you apprised of that as we go forward. Thank you.
Anybody else? I have two items. One, well, it's the same thing, and we as well, we have a tendency to take people for granted. And a lot of it is our safety and our safety services and our utility companies. I want to give a big shout out, and he happens to be in the audience, but to North Gualala Water District. I don't know. I know it impacted Robert and me.
Well, not me so much.
What's that?
Not me so much.
But there was a major water break just north of Bank to Bank Campground that shut off all the water. That impacted a lot of the lodging establishments up and down Highway 1, Rendezvous, Mar Vista, the Evans household. But their quick response to get the repairs done in, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think they got the repairs done in 2 days. And they got a positive testing to where we wouldn't have to boil water 3 days after that. So everything was restored prior to the weekend, which all of our lodgings had bookings, and it would have really been an inconvenient situation. But I wanted to shout out to North Gualala Water District for responding right away and getting that taken care of. Thank you. And
You're entirely welcome.
and I hate boiling
We
water.
did, when we did find the leak, we got it repaired, I think by 5 o'clock. And it was doing that, I think 5:15 up in America. That's great. I'm just over in your discussion and when you do bacteriological tests, key is absence or and positive one is color or pigment. So, thank you.
So if you could correct that.
I didn't note that. detail.
Okay.
But I can-
So it is a negative test.
I can note that.
No, it's okay,
Mr.
never mind.
Evans mischaracterized the bacteriological contamination.
Well, I hate to be negative. And the other one is South Coast Fire Protection District. I don't know if I didn't see it published anywhere, but they set a unit they sent a team down to the Southern California fires to help them, which was commendable. You know, we don't have a large force here anyway, but they sent a unit down there to help fight the fires in Southern California, which was incredible. And I was also informed of something else that I have a tendency to take for granted, that a lot of the tree clearing that happens on all of our roads is done by South Coast Fire Protection District. It's not done by the county contractors, or any of our tree services. The first responders are usually South Coast Fire Protection District, and they're the ones chopping up trees. And so we enjoy driving up and down our roads and don't realize the impact that a fallen tree has on our drives. But and they do it usually. I haven't seen a tree yet that falls during the daytime. It's usually at night and in the cold and in the rain. And so to the men and women of South Coast Fire Protection District, I say thank you for your service to our community as well. With that lengthy comment, see, I'm drawing the meeting even longer than the 1 minute or the 1 hour that we.
Isn't that the chair's prerogative?
It is. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of GMAC until the March 5th, 2025, time 6 p.m. at the Coast Life Support District Building.
I'll be honored to make that motion in the absence of Melissa.
Second.
We have a motion by Robert, second by Henry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Stand adjourned.
Clock out at 11 minutes after.